Good evening, everybody. Welcome back inside our Home Field Credit Union Studio B as we present this week's all-new edition of the Milford Informer. I am your host, Tim Coet. Well, New Englanders have certainly had a lot of reasons to celebrate this past week. Of course, we celebrated Halloween on Wednesday, and last weekend we celebrated the 4th World Series championship for the Boston Red Sox in the last 15 years. So now as everyone gets set to kick back and relax over the course of this weekend, let's set you up with some of our news stories that we've been covering throughout this week. Let's get it started by showing you tonight's top stories rundown.
Tonight we go behind the scenes to share all the details on the Milford High School Theater Workshop Fall Play, What I Want to Say But Never Will. Also tonight, Ryan Farrell provides a Milford TV member report on this week's Oktoberfest celebration held over at the Ruth Ann Bleakney Senior Center. And later in sports, we'll share football highlights from Week 8, and we'll also update you on both the Lady Hawks volleyball team and the Scarlet Hawks boys soccer team as they gear up for the MIAA playoffs.
With the calendar flipping to November, that means the Milford High School Theater Workshop is just a few short weeks away from raising the curtain on their annual fall play. This year's show is unique to anything the Theater Workshop has done before, and I had the chance to catch up with the cast and crew earlier this week to find out all of the details on the show What I Want to Say But Never Will.
Last fall, the Milford High School Theater Workshop entertained audiences with the zany and vibrant Alice in Wonderland. This year, the Theater Workshop decided to take on a completely different genre and subject matter in playwright Alan Haenel's What I Want to Say But Never Will.
It's always a lot more difficult to find the play every year than the musical. You know, it's hard to find plays that have really big casts, especially since, we want everyone to be involved and everyone to hopefully have like a moment to shine. So that's an awesome thing about this play is that there are actually 76 like numbered speaking roles along with this very big narrator role. So my immediate reaction was like, big cast, awesome. And the fact that it does tackle all these difficult topics and that it's based on interviews with real teenagers, I thought was great actually, because it is something that hits close to home for the cast, and it's something that I think the audience will relate to as well. And it is a nice switch to do something that's more modern, contemporary, even though it's been fun to do classics the last few years, but it just seemed like a nice switch and a good fit with the students we have.
This year's student director, Maddie Miaris, was the first to discover the play, and she instantly felt it would be a good fit for her cast and an important message to deliver to the school community.
I actually found this play last year. At the end of every year, we do some research independently as leadership and find shows that we like, and I had found it online and brought it up to the group just on the website that they sell it on, like playscripts.com, and I saw it, and I had read another play by the same author a while ago that was really good but didn't fit our cast very well. But this one I saw it and I immediately was drawn towards it because it has all these topics that we don't really get to talk about a whole lot. And they're things that are really important to me and things that are important to, I know, other people in the cast and other people in our school community. And so I immediately jumped at the idea of being able to present those things on stage because theater is such a cool opportunity to use our voice in our community and in our school.
After years of working on stage as an actor, this is Maddie's first opportunity to assume the role of director.
So it's definitely an adventure because I've done theater since I was like 8 years old, but I've always been a part of a cast or a part of an ensemble, and so it's different to be on the other side of things, kind of seeing it from like the other perspective and having to figure out how to run rehearsals and who do I need to do what when and being in charge of things as opposed to being in things. But it's also really cool because having that experience of knowing what it's like to be an actor, I can help them and kind of give them instruction and like what to do with their character and help develop those characters from the outside.
Our director, Maddie, she's been really great. She's been doing these warm-up activities at the beginning of rehearsal, which we usually do to try to help people get to know each other. But instead of just being regular fun or silly improv games, we've tried to keep it rooted in discussing some of the issues of the show, getting the kids to start thinking about their characters and how they can relate to them, even if they are, speaking a monologue with beliefs that they don't necessarily agree with, which is true because this show covers a lot of things. So it is an exercise in in almost just a more method sort of acting in which you're trying to get in touch with your inner emotions to connect to the character in a way that doing something like this is very different than, say, last year with Alice in Wonderland, tapping into your inner Mad Hatter or Queen of Hearts is a little different than doing a monologue as a character who's someone your age who's really struggling with an eating disorder or an abusive home or some of the other serious topics, and even some of the less serious topics that are covered as well. It has been a different process, but the kids have really embraced it.
With such a unique show has come unique challenges for Maddie and her cast as they attempt to bring the many characters of What I Want to Say But Never Will to life.
In a normal plot-driven show, every character kind of has this long chance to develop their character. So their character might feel one way in one scene and another way in another scene, and it's really clear to see those motivations change throughout the show. However, in this play, everyone has like this much space to do all of that work in, and so if they have 5 minutes to talk on stage or 1 minute to talk on stage, they have a lot of development to do in a very short period of time. So what I've been focusing on a lot as the director is letting those characters shine through in the small moments they have by talking to the actors about how their characters feel, what are those motivations, and how can we make that character feel real and authentic even in a short period of time.
Audience members should be prepared for a lot of serious subject matter to be addressed in this year's fall play, but the cast and crew stress that there are some lighthearted moments mixed in as well.
There's definitely moments of levity. I would say overall the monologues tend to be a bit more on the serious side, but there certainly are moments of comic relief or ones that are less serious than some of the others, because we do delve into some pretty heavy topics, but overall it's fairly well balanced throughout as well. You're not going to spend the whole time feeling like you need your tissues, So the show, What I Want to Say But Never Will, it's Friday, November 16th, and Saturday, November 17th at 7 p.m., and Tuesday, November 18th at 2 p.m., and tickets will be available at the door. They're also available for sale online through the Milford website this year. So we're hoping to get a really big crowd, and we do want to let everyone know that we would say the show is rated PG-13, though. There's a little, with the topic matter, not really language-wise, but just for parents to be aware.
While it may not be a show with colorful costumes and big production numbers, What I Want to Say But Never Will is packed with poignant storytelling that the cast and crew hope will provide audience members with a newfound understanding of the complexities of teenage life.
I'm really hoping that they take the message to heart and really see it as this is the issue, these are issues that the people in our school are dealing with. It's a lot of things. Some of them are really, really hard things to be dealing with, and nobody knows that they're happening because we just don't talk about it. And so I'm hoping that the audience is able to see that, and if it's a monologue towards parents and the way the parents act, I'm hoping the parents in the audience will be able to see that and say, wow, the things I'm doing is hurting my child. Or if it's a friend, maybe they'll look at their friends differently and be able to treat them differently. And so for people in the audience to be able to take that perspective and apply it to their lives and how they treat others.
The title is What I Want to Say But Never Will, and the premise was the playwright did ask that question of numbers of teenagers, and these are the statements and thoughts and feelings that emerge. So it might be good for anyone seeing the show, no matter what your age, to think about what are the things I wish I could say and why aren't I saying them, and for everyone to realize that as the saying goes, everyone's going through a struggle even if you don't see it. So I really think it's a way for people to kind of think about what their own might be and how to relate to other people in their lives who might also be afraid to admit something about themselves.
With Halloween this past Wednesday, there were plenty of holiday festivities across the Milford community. The Ruth Ann Bleakney Senior Center held a special Oktoberfest celebration earlier this week, and our Milford TV member Ryan Farrell was on hand to provide the following Milford TV member report.
Well, I've been here for 5 years, and we have done this every year since I've been here, but I'm sure they did it before I got here as well. We probably added a few new things. I think the kids are a new addition to our party. It's just a way for the kids to come in. It's one of those intergenerational type programs. So yeah, it's a great time.
Senorita, I'm loving your Reba.
Thank you.
But first, I mustache you a question.
Very clever.
How many years have you all been holding this party here?
Well, this is actually an event that the Senior Center runs. We run a play group, and it's our 3rd year running our 0 through 5 play group, and so we actually wanted to join them for their Halloween get-together, so we brought our play group here.
So all of your little nuggets, all the tiny humans, are they dressed up in costume?
They are. We have about 5 or so or 6 of our members here today. So we skipped the youth center. We came right to the senior center with our costumes on and ready to enjoy the party.
To put this event on, it takes a lot of planning, a lot of coordination. I've been in the kitchen all morning cooking. But you know what? I have a great staff. My staff is fantastic, and no matter what it takes to get the job done, they do it. Nancy is good with decorating. We just really, we pull together and we just do it. I mean, it's a lot of work, but we love it. Our center is very busy. We have activities and services for everyone. So no matter what, if you need help with filling out an application for housing or SNAP, or you need a ride to the doctors, if you want to sit with a nurse, we have all of those services provided here. Right now we're filling out SMOC applications for fuel assistance. So if you need that, call here. We'll set up an appointment for you. Another big thing that we have is our fitness center, and we have 20 classes a week. We have a full stock gym. We have trainers available. So no matter what you want to do, it's here. We really have a full service senior center, and we have, as you can see, we have lots of parties and luncheons, and so it's a wonderful place to be, and I encourage everyone to come down and visit. Well, we have November 15th, we're going to be celebrating Thanksgiving. So that's a really big event here. We have Trooper Dan Clark. He'll be performing. And we have a full course turkey dinner. We've already sold 100 tickets, and the room will hold 160. So if anyone out there is interested in coming to our Thanksgiving turkey dinner, I suggest you come down as soon as you can and get a ticket, because it will absolutely sell out. It is served by all of our department heads in the town of Milford, so it's a great opportunity to come in and meet who's running this town and who's in charge of what departments. It's just a really nice event, and I can't say enough about it.
Shake your hands. Shake it, shake it, shake it. Shake it, shake it, shake it. Oh yeah. Shake it, shake it, shake it. Shake it, shake it. Shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it. Oh yeah.
We'll get to an update on the Milford High School teams in the MIAA playoffs in just a bit. First, let's catch up with the Milford Scarlet Hawks football team. Of course, the team just narrowly missed out on a playoff spot by percentage points in the power ratings, and so the team continues on now for the next 3 weeks in a non-playoff schedule. Last week, the team was able to host a non-playoff game against the Old Colony League's Dartmouth Indians. Let's take a look at the highlights.
Milford refused to let the disappointment of missing out on the postseason get to them. The team quickly refocused as they prepared for what would become a regular season Week 8 battle with Dartmouth High School. The Dartmouth offense has struggled considerably throughout this season, and Milford would make sure those struggles continued on this night. Just 3 plays into the game, Dartmouth QB Nolan Ellis would try and force a pass into double coverage, and that poor decision would turn into an easy interception for Chappelle Feaster, his 3rd INT in the last 2 games. With the gift of a short field, the Hawks offense would have no trouble converting the turnover into points. A little misdirection from Colby Perez would give Luke Rosa a huge hole up the middle, and he would travel 22 yards to the end zone for a Milford touchdown. The Hawks would have a much longer field to deal with on their next possession. From just outside their own 10, Perez would face pressure in the pocket. He'd release an off-balance throw, and Dartmouth's Nathan Alves was there for the pick. He'd be driven out of bounds at the Milford 4 to quickly set up 1st and goal for the visitors. After a couple of failed rushing plays and a false start penalty, Dartmouth would go back to their passing game to try and cash in on the Milford mistake, but Nolan Ellis would suffer his 2nd interception of the game, this time courtesy of Brendan White. The Hawks would then use a methodical ground and pound approach to travel their way inside the 10, and then eventually Luke Rosa would finish it off with his 6th rushing touchdown of the season to extend the Milford lead. Into the late stages of the first half, Milford would introduce Dartmouth to the war package, and it would be effective for the Hawks as Rosa would tack on a 3rd rushing touchdown, leading to a 21-0 Milford advantage. Finally, after their offense had been frustrated all half, Dartmouth would dip into their bag of tricks on their next possession. Running back Dylan Pacheco would take the pitch from Ellis, and Pacheco would release the throw downfield, complete to a wide-open Nathan Oliver, who would gain 50 yards before Luke Rosa was able to make a touchdown-saving tackle. This time around, Dartmouth would not leave the red zone empty-handed. Ellis would find Nathan Oliver in the back corner of the end zone on a short touchdown completion. Dartmouth would fail to convert on the point after, so the two sides would enter halftime with Milford on top 21-6. Milford would have the ball to start the second half, and after using some lengthy drives to build up their lead in the first half, they would need just one play to find the end zone on this possession. Sophomore Carter Scudo would take the direct snap, and he would cut straight up the middle before weaving his way to the near side and eventually to the end zone for a 61-yard rushing touchdown. It would not be the last time we'd hear from Carter Scudo in this game.
First down now. Snap to Scudo. Scudo running left. Now shifts right. He's got a lot of open field in front of him. This looks like a replay from before. Scudo at the 30, the 20, the 10, the 5. Touchdown, Milford!
Unfortunately for Carter, that 80-plus yard rushing touchdown would be called back due to penalty. However, the sophomore would remain in the game at the quarterback position, and later in the drive, Scudo would loft a pass into the end zone, and Brendan White would outmuscle his defender to make the catch, giving Scudo his first career touchdown pass. The War Package would return to the field in the late stages of the fourth quarter, and they'd tack on one final score, courtesy of a Hugo Lopes rushing touchdown. It was the third time in 4 weeks Milford was able to drop 40-plus points on their opponent. The Hawks beat Dartmouth by a final score of 42-6.
It was another big win and a great offensive showing for the Scarlet Hawks football team. The boys now travel down to New Bedford for a road matchup this week, and they will find out on Monday their final non-playoff game prior to Thanksgiving. Now on to an MIAA playoff update. The girls volleyball team earned the number 15 seed after their 9-9 finish to the regular season. That sent them into the Division II Central bracket, facing a tough test in the number 2 seeded Groton-Dunstable Crusaders. We were fortunate enough to travel out on the road to Groton-Dunstable, so here are the full highlights.
Despite working in a lot of new faces to their varsity roster in this 2018 fall season, the Lady Hawks volleyball team showed excellent growth and earned their way into the MIAA tournament, where they would serve as the number 15 seed. Milford would have to travel all the way out to Groton-Dunstable Regional High School for round 1 of the playoffs, where they would meet up with the number 2 seeded Crusaders. The Crusaders entered the playoffs on a 15-game winning streak, but Milford did not look intimidated as the match got underway. Early on, off the serve from junior captain Alyssa Williamson, we'd see Allison Corsini with the good stuff at the net, and that would allow the Lady Hawks to take an early 3-2 lead. Then after Groton-Dunstable had briefly taken a 3-point advantage, Milford would battle right back, and this ace from Williamson would even the set at 11 all. As the set went on, the Crusaders would eventually take a 16-12 lead, but once again the Lady Hawks would respond, eventually outlasting Groton-Dunstable on one of the longest rallies of the set to tie things up at 16. But just as Milford looked to be settling into a groove, we'd see an extended stoppage in play from the officials. The stoppage would end up lasting over 5 minutes, and by the time the game finally resumed, Milford was not able to recapture the momentum, losing the point to put the Crusaders back on top. Then with the set tied at 18, we'd see a major turning point as the Crusaders' lone male player, Peter White, would take over on serve. Male players are allowed to compete on the girls' team if their school does not have a boys' program per MIAA rules, and White would prove to be a secret weapon late in the set. White would deliver 4 blistering aces to turn a tied score into a 22-18 Crusader lead, and ultimately the home team was able to take set 1 25-21. Set number 2 would start out in miserable fashion for the Lady Hawks. The Crusaders would dominate the early points, taking a 9-2 lead and leaving us to wonder if Groton-Dunstable was on the verge of a blowout. Milford would quickly give us the answer to that question.
Alvarenga, good hard serve to the left side for Groton-Dunstable. They were able to send it back over. Now Reardon over the middle for Corsini, gets it past the front row. Now traveling to try to make the play was Kenny, but it's out of her reach. And now the serve away for Pinto. She's just able to scrape it over the net. And now Milford will let that one go. It is well long A lot going through the minds of these Milford players as they try to hang in this second set, down 1-0. Here's Corsini now. She gets that one past Blodgett for the kill. And blasted over by Rihanna Wilsey, but long. And we are now tied up at 12. So Milford, who was down 9-2 in this second set, has battled back to tie it at 12.
After Milford hit the reset button on the second set, it would be a race to the finish line. Here with the score tied at 22, the Crusaders would get a boost from their kills leader, Lily Blodgett, who would blast one past the Milford front row for the kill that would place the number 2 seed just 2 points away from a 2-0 lead, but Milford would once again find another gear.
Now lofted over the reach of Pinto. Maeda and Reardon calling for it, sends it back over. Met by White. Now the blast from the left side for Groton-Dunstable. Set up over the middle for Corsini, off the hands, and now still up for grabs as White is able to return. Now Corsini pops it over the front row, all the way back over for Groton-Dunstable on a single hit. Now Pinto, and she makes sure that one does not come back over onto the Milford side, and again the Lady Hawks outlast Groton-Dunstable on a long rally, and now Milford has set point up 24-23.
After failing to cash in on their first set point, the team would get a second chance, and this time they would end it thanks to the block up front by Allison Corsini. Milford would show tremendous resiliency as they would tie the match up at 1-all. Unfortunately, Milford was not able to carry over the momentum into the third set. Groton-Dunstable would race out to a big lead once again, and this time they would maintain that lead. Milford could not find a rhythm, and the Crusaders would take the set 25-12. It would not look good at the start of set 4 for Milford. Here Lily Blodgett would come through with another big kill to give her team an early 5-1 lead, but Milford would continue to fight right to the end. Here Julia Reardon sets up Allison Corsini, who gets the hard deflection out of play to pull Milford back to within 2, but that would be as close as the Lady Hawks would get. Despite a heroic effort all night long, Milford would see their season come to an end as they would lose to the Groton-Dunstable Crusaders by a final of 3-1.
It was a tough way to see the season end for the girls volleyball team, but it was an outstanding season from start to finish. Congratulations to Coach Tammy Weber, the seniors, and all of the players on this year's varsity team. Now moving on to the Milford Scarlet Hawks boys soccer team, they found out earlier this week that they would serve as the number 3 seed in the Division II South bracket in their playoff run. That allows the Scarlet Hawks to host a game on the Milford turf coming up this weekend against the number 13 seeded Bishop Fee and Shamrocks. Now, if that matchup sounds familiar, there's good reason for it. Looking back to the spring sports season, this was the exact same matchup in the first round of the softball Division I playoffs, with Milford entering as the number 3 seed and the Shamrocks entering as the number 13. We know how that matchup ended, so certainly the boys soccer team is going to have to be on their game. They cannot take this matchup lightly. Milford TV is excited to have full coverage of the game coming up on Saturday night at 6 p.m., so stay close to our social media accounts for the live coverage alert. And now on to this week's upcoming events.
Coming up on Saturday, the Milford Scouts will be holding their annual Scouting for Food drive. The Scouts are asking Milford residents to gather non-perishable food items and toiletries and place them in a bag or box and leave them outside your front door in a spot clearly visible from the street. Scouts will be patrolling the Milford streets from noon to 3 p.m. to pick up donations. The Scouting for Food drive is happening this Saturday, November 3rd, from noon to 3 p.m. Residents are asked to avoid placing glass containers in with their donations. For more information on the event, you can email milfordscoutingforfood@gmail.com. And coming up next weekend, the Claflin Hill Symphony Orchestra will open up their new season with a concert titled The Enchanted Violin. The concert will feature Sibelius's Violin Concerto and Brahms' Symphony No. 3, 2 works that have never been performed by Claflin before. The concert is set to take place on Saturday, November 10th, inside Milford Upper Town Hall, beginning at 7:30 p.m. To purchase tickets to the concert, you can call 508-478-5924, or you can purchase online by heading over to claflinhill.org.
That's going to wrap things up for this week's show. We will leave you with a few images of another holiday celebration from around the Milford community from earlier this week. We thank you as always for tuning in, and from all of us here at Milford TV, this is Tim Coet saying have a great week. So long, everybody.